Some stories are written in ink. Ours are written in fear. Welcome to Whisper Pen. Take a deep breath and let the darkness in.
They told me it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. At the time, I was sitting in my windowless office at the National Archives, where the most exciting part of my day was deciding which deacidification agent to use on a letter from Millard Fillmore. Then, a man in a suit more expensive than my car walked in, placed a thick binder on my desk, and said that exact line. "A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Dr. Gwen." I thought, great. Probably another trip to appraise some old congressman's stamp collection in the middle of nowhere. I was wrong. So terribly, horrifically, and perhaps permanently wrong. The binder was titled Project Black Rail. Inside, words like recurring spatiotemporal phenomenon, national-level paranormal entity, and Containment Protocol K3 danced before my eyes. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. I asked the suit if this was a script for a new X-Files series. He didn't laugh. He just handed me another piece of paper, a deployment order signed by a name I'd only ever seen on TV. My salary tripled. I was granted top-level security clearance, and my mission? To join a field monitoring team on a desolate stretch of railroad somewhere between New York and Springfield, Illinois. And so, here I am, in a modified shipping container turned mobile command center, dropped in the middle of a goddamn cornfield in Ohio. The air smells of fertilizer and despair. There are two other people with me. First, there's Kowalski. He looks like a Mack truck that hit a brick wall, then backed up and hit it again for good measure. He's huge, bearded, and has the eyes of a man who has seen way too much government nonsense. He's the team lead, a veteran of this unholy project. He's chewing on a sandwich while staring at the monitors with a look of terminal boredom. "You know, kid," he said to me, his mouth full of bread, "the first time I did this, we just had a compass and a priest." "And now?" I asked, gesturing to the millions of dollars of equipment around us. Spectrometers, electromagnetic sensors, muon detectors. "Now, we have terrible coffee and a history PhD." He winked. "A significant upgrade." The other person is Anya, an astrophysicist roped into this. She's young, terrifyingly smart, and typing furiously on her keyboard like she's solving an equation that could save the universe. She doesn't say much, just mutters things like quantum fluctuations and background variance. Our mission, as Kowalski crudely explained, is to observe and contain an event that happens every year on the night of April 14th. "A train. A ghost train?" I asked, trying to suppress a smirk. Kowalski stopped chewing. He looked at me, and his gaze sent a chill down my spine. "Don't call it that, kid. Give it some respect. It's not a spook rattling chains in a castle. It's a scar on history, and every year it bleeds." It began quietly. First the silence. The chirping of crickets in the night abruptly cut out. The wind stopped. The air grew thick, heavy as if it were holding its breath. The digital clock on Anya's console began to flash meaningless numbers before settling on a string of zeros. My own watch, a trusty G-Shock, had stopped. "It's here," Kowalski muttered. He picked up a strange-looking handgun, unlike anything I'd ever seen. "What's that for?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Insurance. For anything that gets through the fence. You just remember 3 rules, kid. 1, don't look directly at the funeral car. 2, cover your ears when you hear the music. And 3, whatever happens, you never, ever answer if you hear someone call your name from inside." My heart began to pound against my ribs. A fog began to roll in from both ends of the containment zone, a thick ash-gray fog rising from the ground despite the clear night sky. It had a smell, a strange smell. Rust,
wet coal and lilacs. A cloying, sickeningly sweet floral scent, the smell of funeral homes. EM spike, a massive one, Anya shouted, the first trace of panic in her voice. It's right on top of us. I looked out the container window. In the fog, a single, dim, yellow light was approaching. It swayed back and forth like a drunken eye, and then the train slowly emerged from the mist.
Oh my God. It wasn't like a ghost train in the movies. It wasn't translucent or ethereal. It was real, horrifyingly real. An ancient steam locomotive, black with soot and something that looked like dried blood. The smoke pouring from its stack wasn't white or gray, but a pitch black that twisted into distorted, screaming faces before dissolving. It moved with no sound on the tracks, only its own internal groaning, and another, rhythmic, sickening sound. Thump, 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 thump. Like a heartbeat, or wheels grinding over bone. The passenger cars followed, dark wood, windows caked with grime. But through the filth I could see figures inside. They stood and sat, motionless silhouettes in 19th century attire. Men in top hats, women in hoop skirts, all of them were facing us. "Don't meet their eyes," Kowalski growled, his hand tightening on his gun. Too late, I already had. One of the figures, a woman with a deathly pale face, slowly turned her head. Her eyes had no irises, just two deep, empty black pits. And a single black tear, thick as tar, began to roll down her cheek. I screamed. I couldn't help it, a short, strangled yelp. The shadow smiled.
The train moved with agonizing slowness, as if it wanted us to savor every horrific detail. Through one window, I saw a Union soldier. Half of his face was blown away, revealing a shattered jawbone. From another, a child pressed its face to the glass, its features blistered and warped by disease. Energy levels are unstable, Anya cried out. The containment field is overloading in Sector 7. Kowalski glanced at his screen. Damn it, we've got a straggler. One of the car doors creaked open. A figure stumbled out, not onto the ground, but into thin air, walking on nothing, heading for our blue light barrier. It was a man in a tattered suit. He had no legs. Below the waist was just a mangled, bloody stump that dragged through the air. He hit the barrier. There was a sizzle, like bacon hitting a hot pan. Black smoke poured from the phantom, and it shrieked, a sound of pure, unadulterated agony. Anya, push Sector 7 to 150%, Kowalski ordered. I can't. It'll trip the whole grid. Do it. Anya slammed a series of buttons. The generators outside roared. The blue light intensified. The legless phantom was thrown back, its ethereal body convulsing and disintegrating like burning paper. I threw up. I couldn't hold it back anymore, vomiting my dinner all over the container floor. Clean that up, Doctor, Kowalski said, his voice flat, but I saw his hand was shaking. The main event is about to start. I looked up, my eyes watering. The next car was pulling into the center of the containment zone. This one was different. It was ornate, painted a glossy black, with heavy black velvet curtains. The funeral car. Don't look, Kowalski repeated, his voice urgent. Look at the floor, look at my face, look at your own puke for all I care. Just don't look at that car. I tried. God, I tried, but there was a pull, a morbid curiosity. Then the music started. It wasn't coming from a speaker. It was inside my head.
A funeral dirge, played by a broken brass band. It clawed at my eardrums, filling my mind with a sorrow so profound I felt like I was drowning in it. I covered my ears, but it was useless. The sound was inside me. Nam. A whisper. So soft, so familiar. No. Rule number 3, don't answer. Nam, help me. Oh my God. It was my mother's voice. She died of cancer 3 years ago. That voice, it was exactly how she sounded at the end. Tears streamed down my face. Mom, I whispered almost unconsciously. A mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. The moment the word left my lips, everything changed. The funeral car shuddered to a halt directly in front of us. And I looked. I looked right at it. The window was now crystal clear. Inside was only darkness, a living, solid darkness. And in the center of it, the coffin. It was draped in a tattered American flag. But the coffin itself, it wasn't made of wood. It seemed to be made of concentrated pain. It pulsed, faintly, like a black heart. On the lid, a face was forming from the shadows. The long, gaunt, bearded face of Abraham Lincoln, but it was all wrong. His eyes were wide with the agony of a nation. His mouth was open in a silent, eternal scream. The world began to melt. The walls of the container seemed to bend inward. Anya's monitors cracked. "What did you do?" Kowalski roared, grabbing my collar and throwing me to the floor. "You looked at it. You answered it. You invited it in." Outside, I heard a new sound. Scratching. Hundreds of hands clawing at the metal sides of our container. The figures from the other cars were out. They were here, surrounding us. "Containment field has collapsed," Anya screamed. "Energy is flowing in reverse. Oh God, it's pulling us in!" I looked out the window. The cornfield was gone. We were in a black, endless void. The train was no longer on tracks, but floating in space. The door of the funeral car was slowly swinging open, revealing an inviting darkness. A shadow glided past our window. The Union soldier. He pressed his good cheek to the glass, and I could read his lips. "Get on board."
It wants more passengers, Kowalski gasped, his face pale. It's always hungry.
He looked at his strange gun, then at me. "There's only one way. We have to reboot the main generator, manually. Someone has to go out there." "Out there? Into that hell?" I can't," I stammered, my body shaking uncontrollably. "Then we all become part of this damn ghost collection," he yelled. "Better to die out there than ride that thing for eternity, kid." He started to get up, but then a splintering crack echoed from above. A skeletal, blackened arm had punched through the roof of the container. Its long, bony fingers clawed at the air, inches from Anya's head. She let out a scream I will never forget. Kowalski fired. His gun emitted a brilliant flash of white light and a strange hiss. The arm vaporized into a puff of sulfur-smelling smoke. "Anya, keep them busy," he ordered, throwing her a similar weapon. "Doctor, you're a useless bookworm, but at least you can run faster than me. Main generator is to the north, red box. Open it, pull the big lever down. Don't worry about the sparks. Run, now!"
He shoved me toward the door. My heart was going to explode. But then I saw Anya's face, tear-streaked but determined, aiming her weapon at another shadow trying to get through the hole. I looked at Kowalski, this grumpy, tired man, preparing to face a nightmare to save my useless ass. "Damn it," I muttered. "The overtime on this job, it better be good." For a crazy moment, Kowalski cracked a grin. "That's the spirit, kid." Then he opened the door. The air outside was ice cold. The smell of lilacs was so thick I could barely breathe. Dozens, maybe hundreds of shades swirled around. They all turned towards me, their empty sockets fixed on me. And I ran.
I ran like I've never run in my life. I didn't dare look back. I just focused on the red box in the distance. A shade glided in front of me, the woman with the black tear. She whispered, her voice like rustling leaves. "Get lost!" I screamed, and just ran right through her. It felt like passing through a cold, sticky spider web. I was almost there, just a few more feet, and then I fell. My foot caught on something. I hit the mud face first. I looked back. It was an arm sticking out of the ground. The arm of a Confederate soldier. It had my ankle in an ice-cold, deathly grip. It started to drag me, dragging me back towards the train.
I screamed and kicked, but the grip was like steel. I looked towards the funeral car. The door was still open. The darkness inside seemed to beckon, promising an end to this fear. For a second, I wanted to give up. Then I heard Kowalski's roar. He was running towards me, his gun empty. He was holding it like a club. "Get up, you son of a bitch," he bellowed. A tall figure in a black executioner's hood blocked his path. Kowalski didn't even slow down. He slammed into it with his whole body. He and the shade went down in a tangle. "Go!" was the last word I heard from him. The adrenaline hit. I twisted and stomped my heel down on the elbow of the arm holding me. There was a dry crack. The grip released. I scrambled to the control box and tore the door open. Inside was a large red lever with a piece of tape scrawled on it. "Emergency reboot. May cause death." "Screw it," I yelled and pulled it down with both hands. A horrific electrical explosion erupted. An arc of blue lightning shot from the lever, throwing me backwards. My whole body seized up. I smelled burning meat, my own. But it worked. The 4 generators roared to life. The blue light barrier reestablished itself, but this time it was a cage. It shrank, compressing the train and all the ghosts into a single point. The train let out one last wail. A furious, agonized whistle. The face of Lincoln on the coffin lid stared right at me, its eyes filled with an ancient hatred. Then, with a final pop and a blinding flash, everything was gone. There was only silence. And me, curled up on the ground, smoking, aching, and pretty sure I had wet myself. They found me at dawn. Anya was alive, locked in the container, in deep shock but unharmed. The cleaners arrived, men in white hazmat suits, erasing every trace. The man in the suit from the archives appeared again. He handed me another paper, a non-disclosure agreement, with a check that had a lot of zeros. "Mr. Kowalski has been honorably discharged," he said, his voice like ice. "He will be remembered." He was taken by that thing!" I screamed. "Dr. Nguyen," the man said, adjusting his tie, "the official report will state this was a training simulation involving a mass hallucinogenic gas leak. You received an electrical shock from faulty equipment. Sign this, go home, and forget this happened. That's an order." I signed. What else could I do?
I'm in my apartment now. It's been a week. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see that train. I hear that funeral music in my head. And the worst part, sometimes when it's very quiet, I can smell it. A faint, sickly sweet scent. The smell of lilacs. And I know, no matter what the government says, no matter how I try to lie to myself, that scar is still there, and it knows my name. Next year, when April comes, I wonder if the train will come back for its new passenger. I wonder if, in one of those dusty windows, I'll see a large, bearded figure, staring out with tired, bored eyes, waiting to welcome me on board. Welcome to the circus, kid. I think I'm going insane. Or maybe I already was the moment I said yes to that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The final word has been written for tonight, but the whisper pen is never truly silent. Subscribe and return for the next chapter. Good night.